Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wealth After Work, the show dedicated to helping you successfully to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is Josiah Grosso. He is the Vice President and Senior Investment Advisor at ASC Financial Group. We've got a great show for you today. The title of today's show is When Should You File for Your Social Security Benefits? If you've ever asked yourself that question, you're definitely going to want to stick around and hear today's show. Josiah, my friend, it's great to be in the studio with you. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Kristen. Love being here. It's great seeing you.
Well, it's great to see you as well. I've gotten to have some wonderful conversations with your father, Ralph.
Oh, God bless your heart. No, he's a great man.
He is. And really, this is a family affair, all of ASC Financial Group. Talk a little bit about your team and, you know, how this all came to be.
Yeah, so no, we absolutely are a family affair here. I have been working with my father for the last 18 years, but he had started the business well before it. And I always said I've been involved since I've been like 16 years old because my dad's not the best on computers, and so I helped design his website and do all his documents, so it's been an awesome time together.
Well, and no doubt you guys have a very special relationship, and I know you carry over that family feel into everything you do. You love getting to do life with folks, so great to be here with you. And again, this is a very important conversation we're going to be having today about Social Security. The reality is there's a lot of talk out there about maximizing your Social Security benefits. But what does that actually mean, and is that really the right strategy for you? We know this can be really confusing, very complicated, so we're going to dive deeply into this discussion today. But before we do that, I would love for you just to help our viewers understand what are some of the key ages surrounding this Social Security decision that folks need to be aware of?
Yeah, Chris, that's a great question. When it comes to Social Security, there's really three primary strategies or ages that most people like to talk about. The first is what's called your early benefit. And that's going to be the earliest you can claim is about age 62. Unless you're a widow or a widower, you can start a little bit earlier. But for just about everybody, it's age 62. And when you start with that part of the Social Security, one of the keys is there is going to be a little bit of a reduction from your benefit from there. So depending on your age, but it can be up to about 25% reduction. One of the things I like to say is that reduction is not a penalty, it's like a haircut. But the key is it's permanent. Once you make that decision, it is locked in. And then with that Social Security, with that early retirement, you're also in an earnings limitation. So you have to be careful from there where there could be some extra penalties.
If you're still working and you go ahead and claim.
If you're still working, correct.
Yeah.
The next age we talk about is what's called your full retirement age. With your full retirement age, that's when you have been paying into Social Security and you can get that now back out without any forms of a reduction or any penalties if you are still planning on working. The key for there is that might be a little bit different from each person because it's based on your year of birth that Social Security would be. It started off at 65, then became 66. Then they said 66 in 2 months, 4 months, 6 months.
Just depending on your birthday, right?
Correct. And then up until now, where a lot of our viewers probably are, is if you were born 1960 or later, that full retirement age is now 67. And then the last thing I talk about is what's called the delayed retirement benefit. And that's where if you waited to turn on your Social Security, the government gives you a benefit. They give you an 8% increase each year up until 70. Now, you don't want to go much longer than 70 because they don't really grow anymore. There's no point for that.
The amount of the check doesn't go up past age 70, right?
But that's one area that I do tell that I feel personally, and I don't think there's a whole lot that the government does, right? But that is a good place because I don't know where you can go to get an 8% return on your investment from there. Per year. And in fact, it's not even per year. It's 2/3 of 1% per month. So even if you waited a couple of months, you're going to get a little bit of a larger benefit from there.
Right. So that's a guaranteed potentially 24% increase for a lot of folks, right? If they wait till age 70.
Yeah, that 24 to 32%. I mean, one of the keys is, though, Kristen, is this is a very personal decision. It is different from everybody. Just because of I'm going to be working past 67, should I be claiming, or I've got some other investments to be pulling out, when should I be taking that? This is going to be different from everybody, but here's the key. The Social Security Administration, they're what's called order takers. They're not going to help plan or advise you. In fact, they're not allowed to. So you need to make sure you understand and you know what the kind of right time you want to start that Social Security, which can be a little bit hard to figure out between different people.
Oh, for sure. So you know a little bit about my background, but I used to travel nationwide as a financial education instructor and present on the subject of Social Security. And there's actually over 567 different mathematical combinations, calculations, computations to figure out when the optimal time is for you. That's why this can be so confusing. But what's interesting about this age 70, if folks are looking strictly to maximize their Social Security benefit, then clearly waiting as long as you possibly can till age 70, that's the answer, right? Because that's how much that's the maximum amount you can potentially get. But yet, despite those increases and advantages, this is according to the Congressional Research Service, less than 10% of retirees wait until age 70 to claim their benefits, and 30% of retirees go ahead and claim their benefits as early as age 62. But again, let's stress, what are some of these problems of folks choosing to go ahead and file early?
Yeah, so if you file early, that is okay to do, but one of the biggest keys is, why are we doing that? One of the things that gives me a little bit of frustration in this area is that this is probably where people make the most amount of mistakes, is filing early. And one of the major reasons why I see why is because people are afraid that there won't be Social Security for me if I don't start claiming right now, and I want to make sure I have it. That's called a land grab mentality. And we have to be really careful, because here's the thing. Remember, I mentioned that reduction we get, that 25%, that is a permanent reduction that we have. And not only that, we could have some penalties. We have now an earning limitation that we have. That number right now is $22,320. For every $2 over that amount of earned income, we have to give back $1 of our Social Security.
And that's a low amount when you think about it for folks who are still working.
Yeah. And you think about it, that's a 50% penalty. Let me give you an example of my client that had come into my office not too long ago. She has been a client for a little while, but she wanted me to go with her to one of these pension seminars that her school district was having. She was a teacher from Bethlehem School District, and she asked me if I could go with her to this PSER seminar. And I can tell you, the person who was giving that seminar, he's not a bad guy.
Right.
I think maybe he was misinformed, but he gave this blanket statement saying, whenever you retire, turn on your pension, start your Social Security, and when you take that money out, you should be earning almost as much as when you were working. Here's the thing. If that client, her name was Janet, if she would have done that, what he didn't know is Janet was planning on going to work with her brother. That means she would have not only had a permanent reduction, she would have lost some of that benefit because she would have been earning over that. So it's really important who we are taking advice from and who we are working for, and we're getting the right amount of decisions, the right amount of information, so we can make that proper decision.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of, just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And you brought up a really good point. This is the reality. The Social Security Administration is allowed to give you information, but they are not allowed to give you individualized, personalized advice based on your situation. The only way you're going to be able to get that kind of personalized advice is by meeting with someone such as Josiah and the team of ASC Financial Group, who can walk you through this important decision for you. So if someone's watching today and going, yeah, I know that this is confusing, I don't know when the optimal time is for me to turn on my Social Security, what would you say to them?
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you, Kristen. It's not just about the math. It's one of the words you mentioned. It's about optimizing, not just maximizing your benefit from there. So depending on when you're doing it, again, it's going to be right and personal for you, not necessarily what your neighbor did, not what your colleague did, but what's the right situation for you. And for us at ASC Financial Group, that's why we take a person through a process. And we call that our retirement income analysis. And we're going to take a look at, we're going to ask you some basic questions, find out what your goals are, what your strategies are, what is it that we really want to do. And part of that retirement income analysis is a Social Security optimization report. So if that's you out there and you're not too sure, I encourage you, give a call at the bottom of the number there, and we would love to sit down with you and be able to discuss some of these really important topics that we have.
Josiah, thank you so much. I know we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg in this important conversation. We've got a lot more to get to, but if you would like help navigating this important question for you, the invitation is for you to pick up your phone and call the number you see on the bottom of your screen to claim your very own complimentary written financial plan from Josiah and the team of ASC Financial Group. And as part of that written financial plan, you're going to be able to receive this retirement income analysis and Social Security optimization report. That number to call is 844-918-4867. Or if you'd rather connect online, if you simply pull out your smartphone, you can open up that camera app, just point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from ASC Financial Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary meeting that way as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to discuss on today's show about when you should file for Social Security right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Wealth After Work. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Josiah Grosso. He is the VP and Senior Investment Advisor at ASC Financial Group. And a great conversation we are having today all about when you should file for your Social Security benefits. We know that this is a complex decision and a lot goes into it. You can't afford to not look at this from a comprehensive, holistic financial point of view because there's so many factors. You know, we talked earlier about the different ages and what that means from a mathematical standpoint, but there's so many personal factors that really far outweigh the math, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Yeah. You know, I know you work with a lot of folks across the board. You have married couples, you have single individuals, you also work with a lot of widows and widowers, and from a Social Security standpoint, that can mean a whole bunch of different things. So let's first start with some strategies, particularly for married couples when it comes to claiming Social Security benefits.
Yeah, absolutely here, Kristen. I mean, that's something that's a key here. When we talk about income or Social Security maximization, I've had other advisors give some of these seminars and reports, and what they're really looking at is just what could I maximize my Social Security? It may not be just that simple. And one of the strategies here for a married couple is understand usually there's one of the spouses has a little bit of a higher income than the other spouse. That's the one where we really want to try to maximize if we can. Because we'll talk about a little bit of that widower and survivor benefit in a moment.
Right.
But we want that one to be increasing and gaining 8%.
As much as possible, right?
As much as possible. Yeah. But that other spouse's Social Security, I kind of consider that a little bit more of a throwaway Social Security. So we may be able to start that a little bit earlier, which can give some people some relief. Maybe there's some debt that they want to pay off, or there's some home improvements that they have. Right. And by taking that a little bit earlier, it may make all the sense in the world for them.
Yeah, or if they have some health issue, maybe they're in a really, a labor-intensive job that physically they can't do anymore, and they're going, hey, can I go ahead and retire? Having that additional income from Social Security can really be a blessing in those kinds of scenarios.
Absolutely. That is a really important part there. But one of the reasons why we may want to delay is, unfortunately, what happens if one of the spouses pass away?
Yes.
This is where what's called survivor benefit kicks in. And with that survivor benefit that we have, This is where, regardless who was the higher earner, the lower Social Security's dropped, and then we immediately step up to the larger one. That's why that one is going to be important to make sure we are increasing from there.
And I think a lot of folks don't think about that when they're planning this decision, not realizing, okay, when one spouse passes away, you are going to lose one of those two Social Security checks. But the good news is, to your point, Josiah, you get to keep the higher of the two. So anything you can do to maximize the highest check is going to really be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with that, let's talk about some of the benefits with that survivor benefit. Because people don't know that there are some special claiming strategies we can do. Understand the government had the rule called a restricted application that they have now did away with it, because a lot of my clients took a lot of advantages of that, which was allowing a Social Security to increase but still being able to pull out on that benefit, file and suspend. Since April of 2015, we can't do that anymore.
Right. All those strategies are gone.
Those strategies are gone while you are alive, both spouses. However, if one spouse passed away, you still have that ability to do that. And what's nice is that's going to be a little bit of a plan of where if one spouse passes away, you have an option to turn on your own benefit or your deceased spouse's benefit. And I'm going to give you an example of this.
Okay.
My client who lives in Musick, Pennsylvania there, she worked at the dealership, the Hyundai-Dixon dealership up there in Scranton. And Colleen, when she came to see me, she had seen me from one of our free Social Security educational classes that we do. And she came to talk to me. And when she had kind of worked with one of these large brokerage firms. And when he talked to her about Social Security, he just told her, oh, just file your Social Security. Everything should be fine, and you'll be in a good picture. You don't need anything. And here's the thing. She really didn't need that income. However, when I sat down, I talked to her, I said, Colleen, you know, your husband had passed away about 5 years earlier. Here's the thing. Did you know you can claim his benefit, your survivor benefit, earlier? 64 years old she was at that time, allowing her own Social Security to increase because both of their Social Securities were about the same, what's called that full retirement age benefit. And so what Colleen was able to do was allowed to start collecting the benefit off of her spouse, that survivor's benefit, and it allowed her Social Security to increase 8% every year till 70. She just came in to see me last month. She came and gave me this big hug, and she goes, you know why I'm giving you such a big hug, Josiah? Because I'm getting an increase today in Social Security. She turns 70 next month in November. And so she was able to give him, was able to give me that big hug. And she was able to take this strategy that really wasn't available if she listened to maybe some wrong advice. And so that's why I'm going to tell you folks, it is imperative to make sure you're getting the right advice. And you can't make this decision in a vacuum. There's a lot of factors that come through with talking about when's the right time to claim for Social Security. So if you're at home and you're not too sure, maybe what's that best time? Do I have some options available for you? Or for me, I encourage you, give a call to that number at the bottom. Let's get together. Let's see if a Social Security optimization report would be the most beneficial for you.
Wonderful. I love your passion so much, and no doubt you changed Colleen's life. You changed the trajectory of what her retirement income was going to look like as a result of that strategy. So well done. And we know that you have questions. Maybe this is bringing up things for you that you hadn't even thought of or you weren't even aware of. Well, this is why the team of ASC Financial Group would love to meet with you. Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how they can help and serve you. So to claim your complimentary Social Security optimization report, which will be part of that complimentary written financial plan, simply call 844-918-4867. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to Wealth After Work, where today we are diving deeply into the question of when should you file for your Social Security benefits. And, Josiah, I'm really enjoying this conversation with you. And you shared a very powerful story before the break of a woman named Colleen that you were able to help who had been widowed and didn't realize that she could actually claim her survivor benefit and allow her own Social Security work benefit to increase. So again, so many different situations. We've talked a little bit about if you're married, what that is, how that plays into this conversation, into this decision. We've talked about if you are widowed. But what about if you are divorced? Talk a little bit about some of the things that folks may not be aware of if that is part of their situation.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kristen. So if you're divorced, it's not a whole lot of different except for one key area. You have to make sure you were working or you were married for at least 10 years. That's allowed you to have that divorce benefit.
Right.
Now, it does make a difference whether your ex-spouse is deceased or if they're still alive. If they're still alive, it works very similar on as regular benefits work. She can claim up to 50% of that ex-spouse's benefit. And one of the keys there, I want to let you know, if that spouse remarries and that spouse draws off of that Social Security benefit, it doesn't reduce either of them, and he or she never needs to know.
They'll never be notified, right? I mean,
Correct.
That's a huge thing. I think a lot of folks sometimes are like scared, can I do this? And what if they find out? They'll never know, right? It's wild how that's still set up in the system.
Absolutely, really crazy. And then if that ex-spouse did pass away, you can actually receive that benefit, his full Social Security benefit. Now, one of the keys there is if you're thinking of remarrying, okay, you have to not get married until after the age of 60, and you can retain that divorced spouse's benefit that you have from there. But if you do remarry, especially if they're still alive, you may wind up losing some of that benefit that you have.
Right. So a little piece of love advice here on the show you didn't know you were going to get is that if that's your situation and you're madly in love and you want to get remarried, you might want to wait to have that wedding until after age 60 for Social Security purposes, right? I mean, it's crazy, but that's what the rule states.
That's what the rule states from there.
Yes. Well, again, so we've covered, married couples, surviving spouses, that survivor benefit, divorce situation. I know you also work with a lot of people who are single and are just going to have that one check to be able to pull off that one work record. So any strategies or anything that you would want to share for that population? Yeah,
what I'll say is if you're single, the reason to potentially delay may not be as powerful as if you were married or something around those options. But it's still really important to understand your difference. I give an example of my client, Joe from Drums. He's single, was never married, doesn't have any kids. Joe was 62 years old and he retired from his job. He wanted to start collecting his Social Security because he's like, you know what? I don't want to take money out of my accounts. I'd rather take it from the government. But as I was going through this retirement income analysis process with him, one of the things I found out that Joe told me was he was an engineer and he may wind up doing some consulting work. And if he started to collect that Social Security, I had to remind Joe, don't forget, there's an earning limitation that you have. Remember that $22,320? Well, Joe was saying that he thought his consulting work would be about $40,000. And what that really means for Joe is that Social Security benefit would have been $27,000. He probably would only receive around $5,000 of that money. And Joe, he was in to see me a couple of months ago. And he just hit the full retirement age, which again, what's nice about that, you can earn as much as you want without having to worry about that earning limitation.
Yes, because people don't realize that's a low amount, $22,000 and change for the year. If you go over that and you're before your full retirement age, you're going to hit that penalty, and that can really devastate your Social Security check.
Absolutely. So that's why, again, regardless if you're single or you're divorced, you're married, it is important to sit down and taking a look at some of those strategies because, again, this is a personal option and we want to see how that fits in that kind of overall plan.
For sure. Well, I know a lot of folks watching are probably, across the age spectrum. Some people are already in their 60s, some people late 50s. When is the best time to start this process of Social Security planning, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the best time I would say is really roughly that 5 to 10 years before your retirement. We want to start taking a look at what we can do, where maybe our risks are coming from, if we have any kind of taxation issues, some market risks problems that we've got. But specifically for Social Security, how does it tie in? One of the keys with Social Security, too, is when we start collecting our Social Security benefit, that's based on our highest 35 years of work history. If we had a couple of zeros in there, that's going to pull that number down. That's why we really may want to make sure we work a couple of years longer to make sure we can receive the most amount of benefit that we have from there.
Yes, well, clearly so much goes into this conversation, into this decision. I know there's just way more than we have time to get into in today's show, but anything else that you want to highlight for our viewers as we think about this question of when someone should file for Social Security?
No, I mean, the biggest I would say is, and I'll harp on this part, is that earnings restrictions. Yeah. It's the number one reason I see people making the most amount of mistakes. Because don't forget, when you make that decision, your decision is locked in and it is permanent. There's no more do-overs we can do. The government gives you only 1 year to go back and do a do-over, but you have to pay everything back in that they had paid you. So we want to make sure we get this decision right the first time. And so with that, folks, I hope you guys enjoyed this show today. I hope you got some valuable pieces of information in here. But here's the one thing. If you're a little confused out there, if you're unsure of when's the right time to turn on the Social Security, am I going to have a penalty? Or, you know what? This Social Security is just one part of a lot of money I have outside of it. If we're looking at other types of investment plannings and how maybe Social Security ties into that overall income plan that we have, I'm going to encourage you to pick up the phone, give us a call here at the number you see below. Let us get together and we can kind of discuss on some of the important things that we can see to maybe protect some of our money, how we can make sure we have a stream that's built of income that we can last throughout your life. At ASC Financial Group, one of the things we say is we provide strategies and solutions. We don't provide products. So thank you again so much. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, thank you, Josiah. We love you, Northeast PA and Western New Jersey. We'll see you next time on Wealth After Work.